I object. My voice cut through the cathedral like a blade, steady but sharp, and I swear you could hear the gasps bounce off those vaulted ceilings. Every head turned, every whisper collided in the air. And yeah, maybe you think you know why I stood up in the middle of that fairy tale wedding, why I interrupted the vows of a wealthy developer and his picture-perfect bride. But trust me, the truth was far messier and far more explosive than anyone sitting in that pew could imagine. I didn't get there overnight. No, my story started years earlier in a glass apartment high above the river where I thought I had it all. I was an architect obsessed with blueprints and beauty convinced I could redesign the city one block at a time. And then came Marcus Whitfield, real estate mogul, charming as hell, hungry to plaster his name on steel and stone. He swept me into his world, and for a while it felt like magic. We weren't just husband and wife. We were partners with different tools, same dream. He'd bring home contracts, I'd unroll tracing paper. He'd talk leverage, I'd sketch sunlight angles. We teased each other. We built a home full of laughter and scuffed floors and late-night grilled cheese sandwiches after endless meetings. Friends called us a power couple. I used to laugh at that phrase, but looking back, maybe they were right. When he proposed in the unfinished lobby of one of his towers, I laughed and cried at the same time. It was poetic fitting. We toasted our wedding night with cheap champagne, and I thought, this is it. This is forever. But forever doesn't crack. Overnight, it erodes. It started with Marcus coming home late. Excuses wrapped in charm. Business dinners, site visits, emergencies. I wanted to believe him. I did. But the shadows got longer. The silences colder. And then there was her. Penelope Hart. Tall blonde, flawless. Introduced as the face of Marcus's new luxury campaign. I met her at a gala. Her laugh too sweet, her hand brushing his arm a second too long. And Marcus's eyes. God, I knew that look. He used to look at me like that. I tried to fight for us. Booked dinners at our favorite little Italian spot, planned weekend trips. Even bought tickets to a play he'd once mentioned. But every gesture hit a wall. His phone buzzed with messages he wouldn't share. He smiled those rehearsed smiles, and eventually the proof fell right into my lap. A receipt. The Grand Langford Hotel. Penthouse suite. One night obscene cost even for him. I confronted him, set that slip of paper between us like a ticking bomb. He didn't even deny it for long. It was Penelope, he said flatly. She makes me feel alive again. Alive again. Can you imagine hearing that from the man you built your life with? I didn't scream. I didn't throw a glass. I just asked why and listened as he painted me as the problem. Too ambitious. Too analytical. Not soft enough. And then, like it was nothing, he asked for a divorce. I fought back, not for him, but for myself. In court, his lawyers tried to strip me down to a caricature cold woman who valued blueprints over love. But I came armed. Every invoice, every client I'd brought, every design that raised the value of his projects, I laid it out fact after fact. And my lawyer, bless her, cut his team to pieces. I walked out of that courthouse without his money, but with my dignity, my firm, and my name intact. It wasn't triumph, it was survival. And for months, that was enough. I rebuilt. I poured myself into community projects Marcus once scoffed at as unprofitable. I filled my days with work yoga hikes, the kind of small joys you rediscover when you're finally breathing for yourself. And then one rainy evening, my sister dropped the news. Marcus and Penelope were engaged. A grand wedding at St. Augustine's Cathedral invitations sent to the city's elite. I should have felt rage or sorrow or something, but honestly, I just felt curious. I told my sister I wanted to see it, not for revenge, just closure. She thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. But I bought a navy dress, strong, elegant, not screaming for attention. On the morning of the wedding, I curled my hair, clasped my bracelet, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who had survived a demolition and was still standing. What I didn't tell anyone was that weeks earlier, while researching a failed property deal, I had stumbled onto something massive. Penelope Hart wasn't Penelope at all. Her real name was Bethany Carr. She was still legally married to another man, Paul Hendricks, and she had a trail of scams behind her, luring wealthy men into partnerships only to drain them dry. I hadn't planned on using it. I told myself it wasn't my business. But sitting in that pew, listening to the vows, watching Marcus's chest puff with pride, and Penelope's smile shine like she owned the world, I realized silence would make me complicit. So when the pastor asked if anyone objected, I stood. I object. The room froze. My heels echoed against the marble as I walked down the aisle, every step deliberate, like tracing a blueprint I knew by heart. Marcus's face shifted from confidence to panic. Penelope's grip on his arm tightened. I nodded to the pastor, pulled a manila folder from my clutch, and handed it to Marcus. You need to see this before you make a commitment you can't undo. He hesitated, then opened it. His face drained as he read marriage certificates, divorce filings, never finalized affidavits from past victims. I didn't have to raise my voice. Her name isn't Penelope Hart. It's Bethany Carr, and she's still legally married. Gasps rippled through the cathedral. Penelope sputtered, "That's a lie. This is a smear." But her voice cracked, and the guests were already murmuring, judging. Marcus turned to her, his jaw tight. "Is it true?" She froze. That silence. It said everything. I didn't wait for the implosion. I turned, walked back down the aisle, and stepped out into the spring air. For the first time in years, my chest felt light. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. That chapter was over, and nothing in that cathedral could claim me anymore. In the months that followed, flowers started arriving at my office. White lilies, roses, unsigned cards in handwriting I knew too well. Then letters, long, regretful, begging for a second chance. One afternoon, Marcus himself showed up in my lobby, smile tentative, asking if we could talk. I looked him in the eye and said quietly, "There's nothing left to say." And I meant it, because by then my life was mine again. My firm was thriving, my designs sought after, my days filled with purpose. And slowly someone new entered the picture, David, a fellow architect, someone who saw my strength as beautiful, not threatening. With him, I didn't have to shrink or negotiate for space. We built side by side, no competition, no shadows, just trust. And Marcus, last I heard Penelope or Bethany, whatever she calls herself now, was gone. Their fairy tale ended as quickly as it began. Do I feel vindicated? Not really. I feel free. So that's my story. I objected, yes, but not to win him back, not to embarrass anyone. I objected because the truth deserved daylight, no matter how messy. And maybe that's the real question for you. Was I right to do it? To stand up in a church and shatter a wedding with the truth? Or should I have stayed silent? Let him walk into that mess and kept my peace. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I know you've seen moments like this, truth colliding with appearances. Tell me what you think. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next story might just be the one that makes you whisper, "I would have done the same."